Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
The US President Donald Trump has restated a vision in which the US would take over Gaza after officials in his administration appeared to contradict his earlier comments. He reiterated the idea that would mean resettling Palestinians and that no US soldiers would be needed.
President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker.
Mr. Trump's resettlement idea has prompted accusations that he is planning ethnic cleansing and has drawn condemnation from the United Nations, human rights groups, and Arab leaders.
That does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
Analysts doubt it will ever happen. After Mr. Trump's first comments on the issue, his officials suggested any relocation would only be temporary. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister has told its military to prepare to plan to allow any resident of Gaza who wishes to leave to do so, in line with President Donald Trump's proposal for the US to take over the territory and resettle the 2.1 million Palestinians living there. Israel Katz said Gazans should have freedom of movement and migration, and countries critical of Israel's war with Hamas were obligated to take them in. The US Secretary of State, meanwhile, insisted the resettlement would be temporary during Gaza's reconstruction, though Mr. Trump said it would be permanent. Palestinian leaders and Arab states have rejected the plan and said that forced displacement would violate international law.
President of Malawi.
Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera has ordered the military to begin preparing to withdraw from their peacekeeping mission in the volatile Eastern Democratic of Congo. The Malawian troops are part of the Southern African Regional Bloc's military mission deployed to help tackle armed groups. At least 20 peacekeepers, including 14 South Africans and 3 Malawians, were killed as the M23 rebels captured the key city of Goma last week. President Chakwera said the decision was meant to honour the declaration of a ceasefire by the parties, even though fighting is continuing. Protesters in Bangladesh have vandalised and set fire to the former family home of the deposed Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, as well as those of other members of her party. The unrest was sparked by news that Hasina would address the country via social media from India, where she has been in exile since student-led protests ousted her last year. The 77-year-old Hasina, who was in charge of Bangladesh for 20 years, was seen as an autocrat whose government ruthlessly clamped down on dissent. Syria's embassy in Stockholm says Syrians were among the 10 victims of a gunman who carried out the worst shooting in Swedish history at a school in Örebro this week. The suspected gunman, named locally as 35-year-old Rickard Andersson, was killed in the attack, but police have not yet identified him and have not given a motive. The embassy's announcement on its Facebook page was the first indication of who was killed in Tuesday's attack at Risbergska School. A state of emergency has been declared on the Greek island of Santorini after days of consecutive earthquakes. It comes after a magnitude 5.2 tremor was recorded at 9 o'clock local time between the Greek islands of Amorgos and Santorini, making it the strongest in recent days. It is estimated to have occurred at a depth of 5 kilometers. The state of emergency will be in effect until the 3rd of March to address the emergency needs and manage the consequences. More than 11,000 people have already left Santorini, with around 7,000 departing by ferry and 4,000 people by air. And last month was the world's warmest January on record, raising further questions about the pace of climate change. January 2025 had been expected to be slightly cooler than January 24 because of a shift away from a natural weather pattern in the Pacific known as El Nino. But instead, last month broke the January 2024 record by nearly 0.1%, according to the European Copernicus Climate Service. The world's warming is due to emissions of planet-heating gases from human activities, mainly the burning of fossil fuels, but scientists say they cannot fully explain why last month was particularly hot. It continues a series of surprisingly large temperature records since mid-2023.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.